every 4 years here in the United States, we have an election for our president. I'm sure everybody knows this, but it can be a really interesting time on the internet. People get so heated about politics and they endlessly debate. I'm not here to talk about any sort of political opinions or anything like that, but today I'm going to be talking about how to react and how to potentially trade in a market environment when the political unrest or indecisiveness is all over the place, right? We actually saw this with Brexit a few years back. There was so much debate, so much back and forth and opinions being shared, and the markets definitely reflect these sort of big decisions. They're uncertain and they're watching. And I think that it's actually interesting going into this election that we've seen the S&P 500, this is the US stock market, come down pretty substantially. Now, of course, there's also been the case for increased cases for the pandemic, which is definitely also a serious concern. But I can't help but also think that with coming into the election, there's a little bit of profit taking, a little bit of indecisiveness on who could be the next president. Now, I really don't know exactly how the market will react if Donald Trump is reelected or if Joe Biden wins. I'm not really sure. But what I'm going to talk about is how I plan to react to the market when it comes to the upcoming election here on November 3rd and how I am going to be trying to trade this. So stay tuned. Basically, the idea here is that, again, we're seeing some come down here coming into the election. And I think that that is kind of the market not liking the indecisiveness that is going on. So what I mean by that is a lot of times we see markets when they're not sure about something, when earnings for a certain stock are looking questionable before the numbers come out, you might see the stock giving back some profits. That sort of thing could be going on with the overall markets and across the world as people brace for the election decisions. I'm not exactly sure if we're going to know exactly on November 3rd who the next president will be, but I think that either ways there are some plays to be made. Now, me personally going into this election, I have no open short-term currency trades as of right now. Now, I might open some as things get going, but I'm going to talk about what I will be looking for going into the election. I don't care about political opinions. I'm not here to start any sort of debate like that. That's never been the purpose of this channel, but I will be talking about how I plan to react to it. So really, the big thing that I'm going to look for is I am on the sidelines until further notice, until we start to get some sort of clear idea, clear direction of where things are headed and how the market is reacting to it. I'm not going to be taking any sort of trades. Now, I will probably be looking for on the 1 hour and 4 hour charts, mostly momentum to start picking up once election decisions start rolling out on the night of elections. Now, I'm not going to be short-term scalping, anything like that. That to me is a really high risk, high reward game that I'm not really interested in playing on my more swing trade based accounts and style of trading. So what I will be looking for is, let's say we get some sort of decisiveness. Let's actually look at a currency pair, or actually let's look at gold really quick. So let's say that gold decides to get moving here to the long side, for example. Let's say that for whatever reason, the market takes things as a bullish overall sentiment for this, basically selling off US dollars, right? This is one scenario that could actually play out. We could see something like XAU, USD, move higher as people sell off their US dollars. Now, you have to know that whether whoever wins the election or not, generally speaking, people historically view the US dollar as a safe haven, or at least that's how it is right now. People put their money in dollars, they hold on to cash when they are uncertain about things, okay? So whether the president is Biden or Trump doesn't really matter. It's more about how the market responds to that news and how we as traders can potentially take advantage of some of that momentum, which is how I am going to be looking to trade it. Let's say, for example, that we get some bullishness on gold, okay? Let's say that we've got something here moving to the upside, basically saying that, okay, the market is bullish here because people are selling off their US dollars in favor of buying gold. Okay, this could also be said about stocks. This could also be said against some of the risk on, risk off currencies. For example, GBP, JPY may go up if the election is looking bullish for markets, right? But either ways, let's say that gold gets moving higher. Well, here on the daily chart, if we're looking for some momentum, to me, there could be a play looking for a break of this downward downward trend line that we seemingly have been stuck under for a few months now. Okay, so for gold bulls, for example, we've just been channeling lower. But let's say that we get some bullish news for the market, or the market perceives the election results as bullish. This can be really interesting because we could look for opportunities to go long and to ride some of that momentum off of the catalyst of an election. So that's really the big word, is catalyst. So what I like to think of this as is, let's say that when you're trading, you see a technical setup, you see a breakout, you see a retest, something that looks good. Now that by itself can be a pretty profitable setup, right? You could take a trade that looks really, really good. It meets all your technical criteria, and bam, you enter the trade, it starts running in your favor. That's awesome. But what we are going to be talking about here with the election is we're talking about a major catalyst. Now, a catalyst, I'm going to butcher the definition, but basically the idea is it is a reason behind something. It's like an explanation for, or a guiding force. For example, with the election, or Brexit as another one, when you get these big decisions and they just propel price one way or the other, that combined with our technical setups can make for some really profitable opportunities. In fact, let's see if we can find some Brexit moves historically, because in some ways these are kind of the same caliber of movements, right? So back in, you can see some of these big moves, like this one right here. This was a Brexit type movement. Check this bar out. So this bar right here was big Brexit news that came out. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but this is back in, when was this? This was back in 2016, okay? I remember this day. I remember this moving really, really heavy and being like, whoa, that is pretty intense, and that looks like a serious catalyst. So what happens is sometimes we get this such groundbreaking changes, groundbreaking news, and the market just absolutely runs with it. So in this case, with pound dollar, we saw markets move really, really lower and then just keep kind of trailing lower. That's the sort of thing that I am going to be looking for in the markets. Can we get some sort of bullish stimulus that could lead to more drift to the upside? Or on the flip side, what if we get a big bearish catalyst, right? What if we get something that's really, really scary, or people, perceive the election to go a certain way, and that could lead to more downside? Again, I don't care who the person is, or what presidential candidate wins. I more care about looking for opportunities for my trading setups that could have more potential behind them based off of this huge catalyst. I personally like to keep fundamentals in my my kind of vision whenever I'm taking any sort of trades. For example, with COVID, right, when the pound dollar was dropping significantly, I was not super interested in jumping into these risk on currencies because there was such a strong catalyst. Here's back in March when we had this massive movement to the downside, right? That did not want to stop, and it actually persisted for a few weeks there just off of that initial push. So looking for these big catalysts and finding ways to ride them can be huge. So let me talk about a couple setups that I will be looking for when it comes to these this upcoming election. So let's say I'm looking for bullish movement or bearish, doesn't really matter. I'm going to be looking at things like flag patterns. I'm going to be looking, I know these are simple, right? These are simple, out of the box textbook concepts when it comes to trading and investing, but these sort of things with a powerful catalyst can actually have a lot of potential. So let's say that with the election results, the market perceives things very, very bullish, and they say, okay, well, let's say we're going to run this trade. So let's say the markets are just going to run higher because of the bullish catalyst. Well, there might be some really decent risk to reward plays where you could put in some really tight stops, just jumping into some of the momentum at key breakout levels, going with those technicals, going with the catalyst, and trying to ride some of that momentum while it's there. That is a setup that I personally would be looking for. Now, I also want to say that historically elections it's Democrat, Republican, a lot of times there's some mixed information on whether or not the market will go up or down, regardless of a candidate's party. So we've actually seen in the last several presidential candidates, we've seen bullish markets for both presidents because we've been in, or both parties, because we've seen such a bullish overall market. So, I'm not saying which candidate I think is going to drive the market higher or not. I think that both have a chance to, and it's really more about how the market perceives it rather than the person who is elected. So when we're looking at this, right, same sort of thing applies to the downside. Let's say that for whatever reason, the market perceives things as bearish, things are not looking so good, there's not a lot of decisiveness, and then all of a sudden, bam, the consolidation turns into straight up movement to the downside. Well, there might be some breakouts to look for on that side of things as well. So I'm going to be looking to jump into trades as soon as possible. I'm going to be looking for continuation patterns, momentum patterns with relatively tight stops, and looking to ride as much of a move as I can without, taking on massive amounts of risk. Again, one more thing that I'm going to mention is when I'm going to be trading these elections, all of my position sizes will be smaller than usual, okay? And I know some people are like, oh, but this is a time to go big and make a bunch of money. And I guess you could make the argument if you're willing to take more risk, then that's your decision. But for me, I'm going to be taking smaller positions because although this momentum could be very, very strong, it also could be back and forth. So I would say that most likely I think that there will be some great continuation plays, but I am going to be keeping my positions small and letting trades run as much as they want coming into this election and for the next few days. Now, I also want to just mention too, with my stock portfolio, I am holding all of my stocks. Again, I mentioned Republican or Democrat. A lot of times markets, they are bullish overall and right now, and so I'm still holding my stocks. I don't really care who the president is. So I know that there are some impacts there, but it's not absolutely everything, and I believe in some of the companies that I hold. So for those of you guys who watch my channel and also maybe trade or invest in stocks, I have held on to all of the stocks that I have long term. Don't really care who wins the election in terms of my stock portfolio, so just going off of that, just going to be holding on to those positions. But for my currency trades and my shorter term trades in general, I have nothing on the board right now, but I am very, very much ready to get involved when or if a proper setup occurs. So I hope this has been helpful. This is my thoughts on the election and how I personally will be trading it, mostly trend following, mostly keeping with the momentum that the market shows, whether it's bullish or bearish, and going off of that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back next time.